our top story this evening. We reveal how some people are waiting up to 5 years for an ADHD diagnosis.
When adults have ADHD and not really know about it or to not be diagnosed yet, it's actually quite crippling.
The residents who say they're trapped in their high-rise block after both lifts broke down.
Getting up and down the stairs is a problem. The up is way worse than the down, causing pain. I can't keep going on like this.
The Seagulls dare to dream. They face Manchester United in the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley. We're live outside the Amex Stadium. And springing up, we celebrate the swathes of daffodils heralding the start of the new season. Hello. First tonight, a BBC South East investigation has discovered some adults are waiting up to 5 years to be diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder because of a sharp rise in people wanting help for the condition. Campaigners are calling for increased government investment to cut waiting times and speed up diagnosis. The NHS says increased demand is putting significant pressure on their services, as our health correspondent Mark Norman explains.
David has ADHD. It's affected many parts of his life, but the worst part was waiting 3 years for a diagnosis from his local NHS trust.
The biggest difference for me was my diagnosis. It was affirmation that I'm not broken, that I'm not a bad person, I'm not lazy, I'm not all of these things that you beat yourself up over, for many, many years. So for an adult to have ADHD and not really know about it or to not be diagnosed yet, it's actually quite crippling.
When you first find out that you have ADHD, it can be a little confusing and nerve-wracking. ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, can cause problems in many different areas of life.
ADHD can affect 1 in 20 people. It can impact someone's ability to concentrate, and it can cause issues with memory and problem solving. Many adults have learned to live with their situation without a diagnosis, but many want and need help. Professionals are shocked at the long waits people are facing for ADHD assessments here in the South East.
Most adults have lived their lives without knowing they have ADHD and will have requested an assessment because they're experiencing mental distress and struggling with their daily life. So to be in a crisis and then be told that you're going to have to wait 4 or 5 years for even an assessment is very, very discouraging for people who are experiencing a lot of distress.
Health trusts have seen a huge rise in people wanting ADHD assessments, nowhere more so than in Kent and Medway.
In the last 12 months, we've had over 8,000 referrals into Kent Community Health, who are the lead provider for this service, and that reflects around a 700% increase in demand since last year.
But they also recognise long waits for assessments can damage people's lives.
We're obviously now running with much longer wait times than we would like to have, and we understand that that impacts on people. But it is the challenge that we have in terms of having much greater demand on the resources that we have available to offer people at this moment in time.
David says his allotment has helped him through some of his more difficult moments. His experience has also taught him some simple lessons for anyone currently waiting for their diagnosis.
Just own it, act like you have it and start looking into it.
The NHS is facing huge demand for many of its services, but many within the health system say that without extra resources, these lengthy waits are likely to continue.
Well, let's take a closer look at some of the numbers involved in this. The charity ADHD UK believes 2.6 million people have the condition, but it also believes 80% of those people haven't actually been diagnosed. It also says ADHD is more often diagnosed in men than in women. Well, let's chat to our health correspondent, Mark, who joins us now. Mark, 5 years does seem like an incredibly long time. What more can be done to speed up the process?
Well, let's face it, it is a long time. There's no think about it. This is about resources against demand, and by resources I mean money and people, and NHS trusts saying they probably don't have enough to cope with the demand. Now, in the last hour, the Department of Health have told us they're putting £2.3 billion more into the service in the next financial year, beginning in April, to try and see 2 million more people. you think that was good news. But the reality is also there are no actual targets for how quickly they have to see someone. It doesn't actually matter. No one's sort of gauging it. And there are no national figures for how many people are waiting for those assessments. So we don't know the scale of the problem. Now, when people go and ask for an assessment as an adult, it's probably because they're in some sort of crisis. It's no doubt impacting on maybe their personal lives, maybe their career. So when you turn around and go to a doctor and say, I need some help, I may have ADHD, the reality is they may have to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and that's incredibly challenging.
Most of us know someone who thinks they might have ADHD, might be seeking a diagnosis. Why have numbers gone up so much recently?
I think there's a lot of stigma gone, I think. So I think a lot of celebrities have come forward and there's a lot more awareness. There's a lot more on social media as well. So you take away that stigma and adults feel much happier to come forward, ask for help. The challenge is they may have to wait many years to get it.
Exactly. Mark, as ever, thank you. Now, some of the residents in a high-rise block